Hey guys, so there's a lot to talk about with this episode. Which first off, the episode it pretty much picks up back in the present where we see Anna's response to Yo exiting the tournament, and even though she does slap him around, I do like how it's less that she's angry about him stepping down from the tournament, and the slap is really just a reminder that if he stepped down, even if he stepped down, they still have to defeat Hao. And I do like how she's not even angry about Yo bowing out because she kind of expected it. More that Yo needs to start thinking ahead and what he needs to do now in order to prevent Hao from destroying the world. World again, showing a side to Anna we never really got to see in the original. I guess we never really got to see in the original anime that she is that she is prioritizing that even now that right now she seems to be prioritizing her own goals of prioritizing the goal of saving the world over her own goals because she knows that that's what Yo would do and because that is what made her fall in love with him and and even more so, but even more so than that, through pretty much the official thing of like Yo bowing out of the tournament, it shows that the narrative from here isn't exactly headed for a linear path as the original anime. Like, and it was basically what we'll be fighting on, and as the episode proved, one more than one reason, we'll be fighting on a completely different battlefield from here. Like it isn't just going to be like the tournament at this point just doesn't matter. It's going to be just about trying to stop Hao and his men from any means possible. I also like how we also dove a lot more into Mitamaru's character development of this episode, where after hearing Yo's story and his commitment despite bowing out, it's left to me Mitamaru himself kind of questioning his own strength and what he needs to do in order to become stronger. And it's a viewpoint I really like that we're getting because looking back on the original anime, the guardian spirits, while they weren't devoid of getting development, it would I think looking back, it all did kind of they did get development in the original anime, but it all kind of stopped with their origin stories, and they just kind of took a backseat to afterwards to their perspective shaman. But getting this moment with Mitamaru's doubts really like enforces the idea of a spirit needing to be just as strong as their shaman. So like, yeah, it's really enforcing the idea that isn't just like Ren, Yo, Ryu, any of them just alone that need to get stronger. That their guardian spirits need to as well. Um, with that being said, we get to see Ren reflecting on the time he killed Crom and coming to terms with the idea that he was so weak that Yo was forced to step down from the shaman fight before getting revived. And I feel this is one of those moments that the anime could have expanded on a little bit more, because on one hand, it's very in character for Ren to not really dwell on the past and only seek to become better and stronger in the now. But at the same time, that is such a key moment that I feel we could have seen a little bit more time with just seeing him come to terms with all that at once. However, I guess it's one of those things where having already had to face those demons in with Necrom, I guess it does come. I guess it does make sense. He wouldn't need too much more to really dwell on his sins, and I do love how Ren openly admitted that all he wants to do now, here and now, is to help Yo defeat Hao. So at this point, he has now like crossed that emotional threshold, where by admitting that there's nothing holding him back from truly becoming stronger, now that he's admitted that there's nothing like truly holding him back from becoming stronger and awakening his potential that he has yet to unlock, as Mickey Hisa put it. Like as Mickey Hisa even as Mickey Hisa said, the one thing that really prevented him from ever achieving his truest potential was just were those emotional blocks he was putting on himself. But now that he has basically like now that he had that moment of just kind of like lowering all his guards, he can now truly start becoming stronger. And yeah, I love how Ren's scar is now like a permanent reminder of exactly what he did to Crom. Like it's basically that whole parallel thing of how he stabbed Crom in the chest. He basically impaled Crom, and now the scar of being impaled by Nikram is basically the same as is now basically a permanent reminder that things have come full circle for him, and he needs to make things right. And he can only, and as of right now, he can only carry that burden until the end. But at the same time, but it's also serving as a reminder that the cycle of the Tau hatred really is gone. He has nothing to hold on to with that. He can now like move forward beyond the Tau hatred, and both figuratively and literally, and that the person he is now doesn't represent who he was, and that really just overall people can change. Now, as far as the execution of the whole spiritual bit with Ren, the studio did pretty well, but if I did have one critique, it is oddly in the smaller details, where I feel like kind of dropped the ball, and because of how it's represented here in the anime, it does make the manga feel like it has more impact. For example, little things like blood being splattered on Ren's teeth, or impaling Crom, or even the lack of like broken shards after Ren wakes up, all feel like there's a small lack of impact. However, one thing that is done very well is that when Yo and Ren are reunited, the anime does go above and beyond, and just showing how that simple reunion reflects how strong their bond really is, as well as those that Ren and Yo have, as well as the friends that Ren and Yo have made in like Ryu and all of them. Now, obviously, the other huge bit of development in this episode comes from Horohoro, who confronts Hao's gang despite knowing he's too weak to defeat them. And I love this setup simply for the fact that Horohoro knew going into that fight he probably wouldn't win, so instead, rather than trying to defeat them on pure strength, he tried to use whatever he could to his advantage, showing that contrary to what he was thinking, Horohoro's actually a lot smarter, even quick-witted than what he might think. And even more so than that, I think this episode also showcased that Horohoro is at his best when he's using his opponent's strengths against them, and rather than confronting them like in a sort of direct manner. Of course, it's here where we also get introduced to a character that was not in the original anime, Horohoro's father, and honestly, he's just from this very brief encounter, just from this very brief like showcase in this episode, he's kind of the best case. He's kind of really like the best example of a very simple technique that I don't think many storytellers have really managed to grab a hold of yet, which is even the best, which is show, don't tell. Because just within this episode, we're shown instantly how powerful Horohoro's father is, and just from seeing that little display, Horohoro was already able to pick up on what his father was trying to teach him, and just what he needed to do in order to draw upon the potential he hadn't been drawing upon yet, which obviously the main thing was learn to not give up. But beyond that, the one thing I think the idea he was also trying to implant in his son there is from where was draw power from, because as it was said, his father wasn't even that powerful to begin with. His Furyoku wasn't all that as large as, but that doesn't mean that you can't find areas in which to compensate. Like Shaman aren't just like bound to one source of power, or one source of power, or one spirit. They can draw upon multiple sources of power, and this right here shows that. And seeing Horohoro take command of the Iceman's spirit guardians was like the perfect encapsulation of that idea to me. Also, just kind of a nitpick, but in between that fight, there's a line from Hao in this episode I kind of liked more in the manga than the anime, which is when he's notified about the fight with Horohoro, he says how insignificant that fight is, but in the he says that in the manga, but in the anime, the translation is how small, which, again, the anime has had a bit of a mistranslation thing, I think, so it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out in the English dub, honestly. But but yeah, so yeah, just one little scene, but it was fine for what it was. Um, Now, we do need to talk about the perspective we get from the X-Laws in this episode, particularly everyone's favorite, Marco. And I'll be nice to start off. I do think there's a real tragedy to the character in showing just how he's descending down into this continuous, like, spiral of just trying to hold. Weirdly, it looks like he's kind of just breaking under the pressure of trying to hold on to his views, but in doing so, he's also having his worldview completely shaken up and shattered at every turn, even by the person he admires most, like Iron Maiden Jean, like who was willing to keep her promise when Marco wanted to leave Ren dead, showing that despite Jean's own commitment to justice, she herself is not above giving people second chances if she feels they're worth it, or at the very least not above giving people, or at the very least or at the very least just in general, like Jean is principled enough to know that if she doesn't honor her promises, her convictions, then otherwise she would basically truly end up being a hypocrite, unlike a certain someone we know who has basically kind of become a bit of a hypocrite, which, yeah, this is where I'm most conflicted on Marco, because he's been far more interesting in the reboot compared to the original anime when it comes to his characterization. But where he was, like in the original anime, he was practically a robot, but here he's basically there. You can see there is more depth to him and all that. But at the same time, despite the amount of depth and character depth he has in the reboot, I honestly have way more moments of saying "fuck off, Marco." Like seriously, when he brought up Ren killing Crom, you can tell, like it was one of those moments where I was like, Marco, shut the fuck up. I bet you don't even give two shits that he killed Crom. You just want to use that as a freaking as a semantics thing to justify killing Ren. Or leaving him as a corpse. Like, seriously, dude? Like, again, there's good bits with Marco. I need to preface it that. I need to emphasize that. But it's like, then there's also the moments where I'm like, fuck off, Marco. Now, this is also the start of this is also the start of something I got spoiled about before I even read the manga. So anyone who doesn't want to get spoiled, just click away or scrub through the rest of the video, which is, you can kind of see this is the point where the ship of Ren and Jean takes off, I suppose, but I gotta be honest, even after reading the manga, that always felt like the weirdest relationship to pair up in the series to me. Like, it's like the whole Jean and Ren thing is kind of similar to how Kishimoto paired up Choji and Karui. That this one had, like, both of them had me going, wait, what? You're pairing those two up together? Really? Although, I will say, it is kind of randomly sweet and hilarious how it all started with a kiss to revive Ren, and not even from Jean herself, but from her guardian spirit. Like, that's kind of, that I'll be honest, that shit kind of had me laughing my ass off. One final thing, though, to talk about, I want to mention, is how weird the pacing was in this episode. Because for the most part, it actually was handled very well, but every once in a while there would be that one scene or two that would feel kind of fragmented for the rest of the episode. And the thing is, it's not entirely the anime's fault, because I think the manga had a very similar problem in jumping, like, in scenes where it jumped from Ren being revived to like, okay, we're now at the reunion between Ren and Yo. Like, it felt like there really needs to be something in between those two scenes to fill the gaps, but it's not terrible, but it's just jarring enough to where it kind of makes you say, okay, so now we're here, kind of thing. But yeah, guys, that's pretty much all I got for this review. If you enjoyed the video, like, comment, subscribe. I'm on Twitter, handle is Crunchyroll. Be sure to hit the notification bell, the subscribe button, and just share the video. And guys, Dark Knight of Anime signing off. Later, everyone.